Talking about this is like a rite of passage for black animation YouTubers, but I gotta add my 2 cents. First off, I just want to say thank you for the support on my last 2 videos. To all new subscribers, welcome to the fam. It's great to have you. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button for me as it is highly appreciated. Anyways, I've said in prior videos that my favorite Disney princess movie is Princess and the Frog. And while that's true, it's also kind of a lie. My favorite Disney films fluctuate between Princess and the Frog, Moana, Mulan, and Lion King. These specific princesses, however, are some of the more unique princesses in Disney overall. Mulan's relentlessness to save China, Moana's undying passion to take on any odds to save her people, and Tiana's ambition to build the restaurant her and her father always dreamed of, made these characters quite memorable. They, to me, are some of the best main characters in Disney's gallery of films. Not to mention, the music is stellar. While I love the majority of the songs in Princess and the Frog, I think Moana had a better full list of songs overall. Mulan had the best 2 songs with Reflection and I'll Make a Man Out of You. Of course, in a moment of hearing these songs, the best always fluctuates, but I just love the jazz, blues, and gospel utilized in Princess and the Frog. Like, man, why don't black folks make this type of music anymore? Like, I love rap, but I need us to start modernizing some of these genres we created, man. Everybody's doing the same thing and I'm sick of it. Shameless Emmanuel Wilkins shout out, he's the truth. Nonetheless, in this video we will discuss the good, the bad, and the misfortunate events of Soul and the Frog. All this talk about music, what better 2 films to discuss? There's Pixar's Soul, the first animated movie from Pixar to feature a black male lead. Then there's Disney's Princess and the Frog, the first animated movie from Disney to feature a black female lead. Both these movies hold significant weight for me as they brought representation for black girls out there who wanted to see themselves as princesses on the big screen. And with me being a black man, representation for black boys out there is always pretty cool too. But the topic of representation has become muddy throughout the years. While early Disney has certainly prioritized telling stories with white leads, it's not all that surprising given that many of these stories come from real folktales and lore from many different cultures. Princess and the Frog coming from the German folktale The Frog Prince. And if I'd have known the majority of Tiana's existence in this movie would be as a frog, then I'd have rather they just kept their German. Now, I'm not about to go on a tangent about how Disney should start taking African folktales from across the diaspora and utilizing those stories. Some individuals in the black diaspora may not mind their stories being told, and I can only speak for myself as a black American that it won't always sit well with me at least. The thing is though, Disney kind of already did that with Song of the South.
He's heading your way again. Uncle Remus, the immortal storyteller in Walt Disney's honored motion picture classic.
Song of the South is a pretty controversial film. Many people say it plays into heavy stereotypes, some say it's blatantly racist, and more often than not, I see white folks defending it vehemently, so what am I to expect here? All jokes aside, while I haven't seen it myself yet, I do know it tells the tales written by Joel Chandler Harris that he got directly from the slaves on a plantation he worked on. While he didn't own slaves himself, it's frustrating knowing he benefited from stories that he had no right to tell. On the flip side, we may not have known the stories of Brer Rabbit, Fox, and Wolf without his book. I do know of some other black American folktales, most notably The People Could Fly by Virginia Hamilton, but there's not much to be upset about in having even more stories to look back on within our culture. Even still, Disney is capable of telling more original stories. Moana, while utilizing the very real Polynesian demigod, is still a completely made-up story taking place in a time where the Voyagers suddenly stopped voyaging. My point being, I don't understand why Disney has such a difficult time telling fictional stories with black characters. It's like they always have to bring reality into it in a way, but can never fully dive into it because the magic they so desperately yearn for will go away.
You know how long it took me to save that money?
Exactly. Which is why a little woman of your background would have had her hands full trying to run a big business like that. You know, you're better off where you at.
I will admit, they did a decent job showing some of the disparities between black and white people without drilling you in the head with it. But when you do try to cover these issues, it doesn't seem as genuine when throughout most of the film, the characters aren't even human. Like, Princess Tiana deserved way more screen time, man. I mean, look at her character design. She's so cute. Like, how do you see this and go, let's make her a frog? Look, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy this movie. I know some consider it bad and there are valid criticisms. Dr. Facilier, while one of the highlights of the film for me, has essentially no relationship with Princess Tiana, which I guess is a unique approach, but nah man, nah. Regardless, this dude is the GOAT. Friends on the Other Side is such an amazing song, and every scene with him is a visual showcase.
Ooh, are you ready to take a journey with me? To visit the evil Dr. Facilier.
Shout out to Bruce Smith, because even without much backstory, Dr. Facilier has to be my favorite villain in all fiction. Near the end of the film, Tiana and Facilier have a deeper conversation in the dreamscape. I love the scenes here because they remind me a lot of the Harlem Renaissance artist Aaron Douglas's work, but the interaction between Tiana and Facilier was good on its own. I couldn't help but feel the emotional weight could have been tons more had they had more interactions throughout the film. Even his eventual downfall in the end. Yes, downfall. I refuse to believe he died, but I swear man, as chilling as this scene was, we just didn't know enough about him to care as much. But that's not the only fair criticism. The side characters weren't fun to watch. I don't hate Ray as much as others do, but I could certainly do without him. Most other Disney princesses have a cute pet to follow them along, or at least a funny sidekick to help them along the way. But this one scene here...
Hey, Tiana!
Morning, Georgia.
Hey, how you doing, Tiana?
Hey, y'all.
We all going out dancing tonight. Care to join us?
Yeah, come on, Tiana. Live a little. It's Mardi Gras.
You know,
showed just how much more fun the human characters are in this. But then there's Naveen of Maldonia. In regards to Naveen, he's not that bad, but he immediately takes you back to what I was saying about Disney trapping themselves into telling more realistic stories with black characters, unlike their other stories. Instead of just having Tiana marry a white prince, they instead decided to create a fictional kingdom, which ain't too bad in hindsight, but if you're gonna have a fictional kingdom, why couldn't the prince be a black dude? Come on, Disney, what are we doing? I'm kidding, I'm happy with Dr. Facilier. I actually enjoyed Naveen as a character. In regards to the more character-driven princes in Disney's mythos, he's right up there with Flynn Rider for me. Being a charismatic dude who grows as a person as he goes on an epic adventure with the person he'll soon come to fall in love with. Like I said, I genuinely felt that Princess and the Frog was a good but flawed movie. It's obviously one of those films I have a bias towards since I can relate to Tiana more, ethnically speaking of course, but I really wish she got to be a human longer. What's this video called again? Oh yeah, Misfortunate Events. Well, while Winnie the Pooh was the last traditionally animated film to be theatrically released by Disney, in regards to the death of Western traditional animation, Princess and the Frog is often one of those films blamed for this very reason. Sure, it wasn't a major success. It did gross $271 million US on a $105 million budget, but that wasn't enough for Disney. Then Winnie the Pooh coming out as a complete box office disaster just didn't help matters at all. Of course, it is Disney's fault. Keep in mind, before Princess and the Frog, the 2D animated films that would eventually come out were Brother Bear, Treasure Planet, Lilo and Stitch, and Atlantis: The Lost Empire. And look, 3 out of 4 of these are some extremely slept on films, but people really only talk about Lilo and Stitch. That's not even the worst part. Disney literally sabotaged 2D animation by releasing poor quality sequels to their most iconic franchises. I mean, seriously, some of these are just criminal.
Zephyr, you need to slow down.
okay, Mom.
Listen to your mother, young man.
Lion King 2 wasn't so bad. They really dropped Not Like Us before Kendrick did, but still, while the story wasn't awful, it was still a massive downgrade to the original. I'll give them credit though, because they used to give a lot of care to the Lion King franchise before all these live action remakes. If you haven't seen Lion King 1.5, do it now my dude. But unfortunately, Disney's sabotaging of 2D animation and the rising of 3D animation extremely hurt Princess and the Frog. Like I said, it wasn't really a flop, neither critically or domestically, but compared to what it should be, especially considering it's the lowest grossing Disney princess movie of all time, just an overall sad ending to one of my most beloved childhood films.
Joe Gardner, where have you been?
Exactly, man, we're here to talk about you too. Soul is a masterpiece. Yes, it is. It's hard to imagine little kids watching this and being immersed the entire time though. I mean, even I got bored sometimes, but let's be honest, all masterpieces are a little boring. But seriously, you've heard this from other YouTubers I'm sure, but this movie made me rethink my entire life. When it comes to Joe becoming a soul though, it isn't really the same in comparison to Princess and the Frog. Or maybe it is. I'll get to that. Soul as a film itself isn't a film about blackness. It's a story about life's purpose. How too often we find ourselves stressing about what our focus in life should be, so much so that we become slaves to it. And it's dangerous. This point is further proven when you learn that Joe wasn't immediately thought of as a black character to begin with. Only until they prioritized jazz would that be the point they decided to make him a black man. For me, it becomes far more forgivable that he become a soul since the concept of the story in general strengthens it. Besides, we did get to see the humans far more than the souls, and even though Joe was in the cat, it wasn't all that bad. Pause. I did find myself cringing in some scene, which I'm sure was the intended purpose, but still. In reality, another Pixar film, even a Disney film that consists of a black lead for the entire duration of it would make these criticisms go away. And lately, they kinda have. I mean, since the Spider-Verse films have come out, how many people have you heard talk about this? Not many, and that's really the point. The fact that these movies, Pixar's Soul and Disney's Princess and the Frog, were the first fully animated films consisting of a black lead, it sucks they weren't able to appear black throughout the entirety of the film. Again, while Soul narratively encourages why they did this, my point still stands, and I'm actually very hopeful for the future of animated films that include black characters because of it. What we got from Joe's character progression was some of the most beautiful, relatable events I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing. Watching him have a passion that drives him every day, him slowly realizing that he's becoming chained to said passions, and then learning that everything he was fighting to attain was already a part of him the entire time. I mean, it was powerful.
I heard this story about a fish. He swims up to this older fish and says, "I'm trying to find this thing they call the ocean." "The ocean?" says the older fish. "That's what you're in right now." "This?" says the young fish. "This is water. What I want is the ocean."
When I heard this the first time, I thought I couldn't understand it. I had a simple way of understanding it and thought it being so simple meant that it probably wasn't the point. But it is. Sometimes people don't realize that they're already experiencing what they're fighting so hard for. The scene where Joe sits at his piano to reflect on everything he's been through was such an incredible scene that really empowers Dorothea's analogy even more. It's really sad that a movie like this wasn't released in theaters. It did come out in 2020, so obviously COVID played a factor, but Disney forcing this movie to release on Disney Plus has got to be one of the most infuriating things this company has done over the last few years, solely in regards to entertainment. I know the people behind Pixar were fuming given that their first theatrical film to release after COVID was Lightyear. Poor Pixar. Overall, Princess and the Frog and Soul are two films that have experienced many misfortunate events not only outside but even within their respective films. Being the first of their studio's black leads, their impact would always have a heavy presence since there are many black animation fans out there who enjoy these stories too. Again, I think these two movies are incredible. Maybe not the best of their respective studios, but I'm glad that neither are bad to the point where it's nearly embarrassing. I do appreciate these stories, but I think it's necessary to critique these films as much as possible so that the next installment is handled with even more care than what we have now. What did you think about The Princess and the Frog and Soul? Let me know in the comment section, and please like the video if you enjoyed this and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Until next time.